Sheldon Croney go off for 339 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. Pretty impressive night, huh, Trevor?
You know what's impressive is that's not his best game of his career. 380 yards against Golden West last year when he played for Garces. But, yeah, best of the season. Absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's not just him. Jamar Moya is quick.
You know what I like, though, is his previous best game that you said, or his best game ever, was another playoff game.
No, that was
Golden West.
No, Golden West was in September of last year, but he did have like 284 against Kingsburg.
Okay.
Hold on, I have it written down. He had 274 yards against Kingsburg in the playoffs last November.
This guy comes out in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's phenomenal what he does. But it's not just him. Lawrence White is a really good running quarterback, really good dual option. I don't know what Lewis is looking at Justin for, but I don't care.
Who knows?
Jamar Moya is great. Prevost had a great. There was just, if we could show that. Look at this play. Look at his screen.
Here.
This is a cutback screen. Great block here by White. Comes around, and Prevost just keeps on going and going and going. Cuts around. Blocked by Croney there. Gets 25 yards on this carry or on this catch. And that's just another dimension that they have where, I mean, a play like that, and then, you know, here comes Moya on the reverse, comes around, goes 11 yards in for the score. He's only a sophomore. White's only a junior. There's just so much added to this team. They got a really strong offensive defensive line. The D-line held a running back, Harris, for Tulare Union, that had 2,500 yards and 30 touchdowns in the first 11 games to 44 yards on like 19 carries and 1 touchdown. I mean, their Spencer Montgomery did have 181 yards receiving on like 5 catches. That was the one thing that Tulare Union was able to do, is they had great kickoff returns. They always had good field position, but there was times where they couldn't convert on a 4th and long from the 10 when they were first and goal at the 3. They were able to connect on these long fade routes down the seam, where Montgomery was able to use that couple inches height and that ability to jump over the shorter cornerbacks for Ridgeview. And that's something they're going to have to work on if they want to continue to advance, you know, in the next 2 weeks, especially with this game against Sanger next week. But Ridgeview, I mean, that's a quality team. I think that's a D1 team masquerading as a D2 team right now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Sanger, who at home came out and beat San Joaquin Memorial 49-26. And we're going to see a fantastic matchup next week with the number 1 seed Ridgeview hosting the Sanger Apaches, who do own a win over the Division I number 1 seed Edison.
Yep.
And Sanger
Big
is
CMAC
known
win for him.
And we talk about Ridgeview and Croney and Moya and White and all their weapons. A lot of the time, some of it we forget about, can they play physical with teams? And they are going to be tested next week. Sanger is an incredibly
Well, the one thing that
Ridgeview
is going to be able to do is they can play physical up front. You just got to worry about that secondary if they can continue to get it. I mean, White had an interception there in the second quarter, but you can't continue to give up big plays like that and hope to always score on these big plays like they do. I mean, they do, and they have been doing it at will, but, you know, it gets tougher and tougher now that we're in the semifinals, and the section finals are 2 weeks away now. December 6th is 2 weeks away.
Sanger will travel to Ridgeview. The 9-3 Apaches will try to invade the Wolfpack. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Maybe you get to go see that one.
I'm probably going to end up going back.
Maybe.
And I don't mind.
All right, on the other side of the Division II bracket, Kingsburg, who we saw beat Independence last week, traveled to one of their rivalries, Dinuba. I'm sure that game was very intense, but Dinuba comes out on top, 34-13. And we saw Kingsburg look pretty solid last week and then go get handled by Dinuba, who likes to throw the ball around a little bit. And they're gonna have a tough one next week as well with a big win.
And we keep talking about the rematch between Bakersfield and Liberty next week. Look at this Dinuba-Lemoore.
Absolutely.
That they had, where Lemoore, they both went in 9-0. Lemoore went out, won that one in in the final week of the regular season, and now we get to see that one again. I mean, this is fantastic football where, you get the schedule makers did it right during the regular season, and now the brackets are turning out to be, and what we thought, the top 4 seeds in D2 are now through Dinuba versus Lemoore, and then, Ridgeview, Host, and Sanger. Those are the top 4 seeds, and those are 4 quality teams that this D2 bracket, is not shabby against that D1 bracket whatsoever.
After Dinuba's win, moving on to the semifinals, they will face the winner of this one, who is Lemoore at home, beat Redwood 59-41. Lemoore moves to 11-0. They will host Dinuba, the 2 and 3 seeds. Will go against each other there, and Dinuba, a 10-1 team, Lemoore, 11-0 team. Another exciting matchup in the Division II bracket.
Justin, I'm not a math guy. That's 100 points scored.
That's a lot of points
That's
scored.
a lot of points
and,
scored.
I said Redwood could be on the upset alert because I like the way Redwood played. I like their offense. They obviously put points up, but this Lemoore team, they can do it as well.
Yep. All right, let's move on over to D3.
Division 3, Hanford, the number 1 seed, hosted number 9 seed Fresno, pick up a win 41-16. Hanford, I heard that was pretty intense at the end of the game. Heard there was a couple scuffles out in the parking lot. Not too surprising. But
there's no need for that, ladies and gentlemen. If you're an adult and you're fighting outside of a high school football game, go home and reevaluate what you're doing.
Well, Hanford, the number 1 seed, who their only loss on the year, I believe, was to Lemoore, will now host the winner of this one. Bakersfield Christian goes on the road up in Tulare County, and they beat Tulare Western 20-7 in what was.
I'm sorry, that was the
Hanford.
That was a Hanford Lemoore game in Week 10. I apologize.
That's all right. I was on it. I fixed it without even.
Ooh, that looks good. You got another one for us there, Zach?
No, okay. I don't. You need to stand down over there.
Look at that. You sit down and you already get a full screen.
All right. I like it. I got some BHS stats for you guys.
Are you cold? You cold?
I was cold.
Cold? You're not showing off the BVarsity.
Stand down.
Lewis, you want to keep going on scores?
Zewing needs a shave.
Zewing needs a shave, he says.
If I shave, I have to buy Trevor coffee for the entire month of December, so that's not going to happen.
And you know I'm not shaving because this
gonna
is
happen. Not
Staying
gonna
in
happen.
Division 3, the number 3 seed Madera beats South High at home. Madera gets the win 56-28.
That means I win predictions this week.
I mean, that's a phenomenal stat there. 56 points against that South defense that has been absolutely superb.
That was
I want to
mostly in the
say,
first
Trevor,
half.
they had 56 points in the first half.
I know.
Wow.
Get an earpiece. Tell him to get an earpiece.
Put an earpiece in there.
Put in an earpiece.
Oh, all right.
But you can't hear the Dominator if you don't have one.
Of course, he wasn't saying anything anyway, so you didn't miss it.
Tough loss there for North, 63-0 to Mission Oak. Justin, I won't steal your thunder. Keep going.
Right. Yeah, number 2 seed Mission Oak wins 63-0 over North. Sets up Madera Mission Oak semifinal. Moving on to Division 4, Liberty Madera beats Kerman at home 41-21.
It's a really good offensive team there in the Ranchos area.
Number 4 seed Golden West beats Chowchilla, who was the 5 seed, 31-7. Sets up Liberty versus Golden West in one side of the bracket. Roosevelt travels to Chavez. Chavez does what they do, and they don't allow points on the board. And Chavez comes up with a 13-7 victory as the 3 seed, and now they will travel to the 2 seed.
And if you think about that, that was Casey Quinn beating the team that he coached last year at Roosevelt.
Casey Wynn's done a fantastic job for Chavez. They will now travel to Central Valley Christian, CVC, who beat Madera South tonight 50-6. That's an interesting stat because CVC just put 50 points on the board, and I don't think Chavez has given up 50 in the last 5 games. That'll be interesting to see that type of matchup, the 2 versus 3 seed.
That feels like 13-7 all over again.
Yeah, that's Zach talking away from a microphone, ladies and gentlemen.
And Corcoran, I think Zach Ewing called this. I don't know if you ended up putting it in the paper or not, but I remember last week Zach calling this. The number 8 seed Corcoran, who is now healthy, beat the number 1 seed in Division 5 Farmersville.
I did call that
26-14.
I did not call the number 2 seed losing though.
I don't think anybody did.
No. Mendota continues their solid season, now moving to 9-3 with a win over Sierra. 26-14. That sets up Corcoran at Mendota. Emmanuel comes up with a 10-7 win over Carruthers. And the big one for Kern County, this is a loss that we didn't see coming. The number 2 seed, Kern Valley, who we believe was the number 1 seed overall in this division.
Should have been.
Still travels. Because they were the number 2 seed, they had to travel to Fowler and end up getting beat 44-28. Sets up Emmanuel versus Fowler. And I'm going to call it right now before Zach does. I think Corcoran wins the Division 5 championship.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to go with Emmanuel.
I'm going to go with Fowler just because of my dad.
Fowler You're talking about a Kern Valley defense that has 4 shutouts in the season. Fowler had 511 yards of offense in that game.
Wow.
Okay.
Do we have anything left on Division 6?
Yeah, we have Division 6 sets up a championship next week. Kennedy. Absolutely phenomenal, the turnaround that this program has had. And now they're going to be hosting the Division 6 championship against Avenel.
But you talk about a turnaround, like you said. I'm just going to say, you turnaround. They were so bad for so many years that they fell to Division 6, and now they had a winning season. And I don't see them getting beat. I think this team is going to walk away with a Valley championship. And, of course, it's going to be against Avenel, who beats Sierra Pacific, who I think Trevor and I both picked.
I think I picked Sierra Pacific, too.
Yeah, 13-0
good
for
Avenel.
Good win.
And do we have the Southern Section score up there? We got it? We got it? Mojave winners on the island.
And they will play Thacker of Ojai.
They're playing Thacker, which I believe is the one team that's beat Mojave this year. So they exercised one demon by going to Catalina Island, beating Avalon. Now they got to exercise another demon and play Thacker in the championship next week.
Lewis, before we move on, do we need to take a break?
I just want to go over something really quickly.
Let this guy talk for a minute.
You look at Dennis Moody in his first year for Kennedy. They're playing for the D6 title. You look at what Kennedy's done over the years. 2-9 last year, 2-9 in 2012, and then 0-10, 0-10, 0-10 in the first 3 years of this program. So you're talking about a team that won 4 games total coming into this year, and now they're going to host the D6 championship. Absolutely phenomenal. And you also look at it too that Delano's got 2 teams playing for a championship, and then with Chavez at CVC in the D4 championship, you're talking about a Delano team that only has 4 high schools, 3 high schools,
Just 3
high schools, and 2 of them are still in the playoffs and will be practicing on Christmas Day, which we know every football player and every football coach.
Thanksgiving, but
What did I say?
Christmas Day will not.
No,
they
not
will
Christmas
be
Day,
at home on
Thanksgiving.
Christmas Day.
Real quick, a couple of things that we're talking about the state bowls there. Mission Viejo. Advances on to
that
the
was a
semifinals.
thriller of a game. They were up
38-35.
31-14, and I told Trevor they had won. They actually fell behind 35-31. Who are they playing?
They played Rancho Cucamonga.
And then scored on a 4th and 15 play with like 30 seconds left to win the game.
They will play Temecula Great Oak in one semifinal. Vista Murrieta and Upland will play in the other. Upland is the number 1 seed, and I think Upland, should Upland win, I need to look at their record, but
Upland would be the favorite in the final, I think.
Yeah.
And I think we have to remind everybody why Mission Viejo advancing in the West Valley Division playoffs is so big. Because Liberty beat Mission Viejo 18-7 in week 0, where Liberty is now still playing in D1. Ridgeview has a win over Liberty in week 2, that next week, where it looked like Liberty was maybe still riding kind of high off that Mission Viejo
Every
win.
time Mission Viejo wins, it helps Liberty and Ridgeview's bowl chances.
Well, it helps everybody in the Central Section, really.
That's true. But especially if it were to come down to a head-to-head. Now, of course, Liberty's got its own problems next week with Bakersfield coming to town. Got to take care of that first. I have some interesting stats. Maybe we should take a break first.
Let's take a break.
I have some interesting stats
By the
on
way,
that BHS Liberty rematch.
Another one, too, that's interesting is that, remember that Arroyo Grande beat Liberty? Mm-hmm. They have moved on to the semifinals.
They beat Lompoc.
They beat Lompoc.
Yeah.
They're going to
Which had beat them earlier in the season.
3 of those teams in the same league.
Yeah.
What is that? The Pac-5 or the Pac-7 up on the Central Coast.
Right.
3 of those teams are in the semifinals in that division.
Yeah, Arroyo Grande beat Lompoc like a drum tonight, actually.
And Paso Robles, which I think beat Clovis earlier in the season, or beat one of the Clovis schools handily. I think it was Clovis. Is in that semifinal, and the Atascadero is there too, which beat Paso Robles. So it's kind of interesting too from the Division 2. Those are Division 2 programs too. So Ridgeview's kind of looking on that one as well.
Right.
All right, let's take a break.